Some mornings begin very quietly. The house is still. The light is just starting to touch the windows. And for a moment, the whole world seems to be holding its breath. You might be standing in the kitchen, waiting for the coffee to finish brewing, or sitting by the window with a warm mug in your hands, watching the street before anyone else is awake. Morning used to feel different. There were alarms, schedules, people moving through the house, breakfast to make, places to be. The day arrived quickly, and you stepped into it before you had time to think too much about it. But later in life, mornings can feel wider. Sometimes the quiet feels peaceful, and sometimes it feels heavier than you expected. Thoughts arrive early, memories, small worries about the day ahead, a feeling that the hours in front of you are long and a little uncertain. Some mornings carry a kind of loneliness that's hard to explain. The empty chair at the table, the silence where voices used to be, or simply the feeling of waking up into a house that hasn't quite decided what the day will be yet. If you've felt that before, you're not the only one. Many people discover that mornings change as life changes, and sometimes the hardest part of the day is not the afternoon or the evening. It's the first few minutes after waking up. Because the way a morning begins has a strange influence on everything that follows. A heavy morning can make the whole day feel longer. But the opposite is also true. A gentle morning can quietly lighten the entire day. Not with a complicated routine, not with a long list of things you have to do. Just one small, steady habit. Something simple enough to do every morning. Something that meets the day with a little less pressure and a little more kindness. In the next part, we'll talk about why mornings can feel so different after 60, and why that quiet first hour sometimes carries more emotion than the rest of the day. When you're younger, mornings tend to arrive with momentum. An alarm rings, there are places to go, things to prepare, people already waiting for you somewhere. The day begins quickly, and you step into it almost without thinking. There's work to get to, children to wake up, schedules to keep. Even if the morning feels rushed, it carries a sense of direction. Life is moving fast, and you move with it. But later in life, mornings often arrive more slowly. The alarm might not ring anymore. The house stays quiet. And the day doesn't always begin with the same urgency it once did. At first, that slower pace can feel like a gift. You can take your time. You can sit with your coffee. You can watch the light move across the room without needing to hurry anywhere. But sometimes that open space brings something else with it. Thoughts. When life slows down, mornings get wider. And in that wide space, the mind can start filling the silence. You might think about the day ahead, or about something that happened yesterday, or about someone you used to speak to every morning. Sometimes memories arrive before breakfast. Sometimes worries about health or family show up quietly in the background. Sometimes the silence of the house reminds you how much life has changed. None of this means anything is wrong. It simply means the mind has more room now. Silence can be peaceful, but it can also let every thought in at once. Many people who reach this stage of life notice the same pattern. They wake up earlier than they expect. The world outside is still dim, and their thoughts feel louder than the quiet around them. It's a very human experience. The mind wakes up before the day does. But here's the important part. That first hour of the morning doesn't have to belong to worry. It doesn't have to belong to loneliness either. Because there's a small habit that can gently change how the morning begins. And surprisingly, it's much simpler than most people expect. In the next part, we'll talk about that habit and why something very small can make the entire day feel lighter. When people talk about morning routines, they often make them sound complicated. Long lists of things to do, exercise, meditation, cold showers, journals filled with plans and goals for the day. And while those things may help some people, they can also make mornings feel like another task to manage, especially later in life, when the goal isn't to become more productive. The goal is to feel a little more at ease. The habit that helps many people the most is surprisingly small. It begins before the day fully starts, before the phone, before the news, before the mind begins organizing the day or worrying about it. You simply sit with the morning for a few minutes, not doing much of anything, just arriving in the day. Maybe it's the same chair every morning, a spot near the window where the light slowly changes. Maybe it's a cup of coffee or tea in your hands. Maybe you look outside at the trees, or the quiet street, or the sky beginning to brighten. There's no pressure to think about anything important. You don't need to plan the day. You don't need to solve problems. You're simply giving the mind a calm place to begin. For many people, this becomes the anchor of the morning, the moment that says, "The day has started, and I'm here for it." A gentle morning doesn't start with doing more. It starts with allowing the mind to wake up slowly. When you give yourself this small pocket of quiet at the beginning of the day, something subtle begins to happen. Your thoughts don't rush in all at once. Your breathing settles. Your body relaxes into the morning instead of bracing for it. Sometimes the best way to begin a day is simply to arrive in it. No pressure, no performance, just a quiet moment that belongs only to you. And that small moment, simple as it is, can quietly shape everything that follows. In the next part, we'll talk about why these first few minutes matter so much, and how a calm start can influence the entire day ahead. The first few minutes of the morning do something important. They set the emotional tone for everything that follows. Most people don't notice this happening, but the mind pays close attention to how the day begins. If the morning starts with tension, checking the phone, reading upsetting news, rushing into worries, the body reacts immediately. The shoulders tighten, the thoughts speed up, and before the day has even fully started, the nervous system is already on edge. From there, everything feels a little heavier. Small problems feel larger. Unexpected moments feel more stressful. And the mind stays in that hurried state for hours. But when the morning begins quietly, the body receives a different message. Nothing urgent is happening. There is time to breathe. There is time to wake up slowly. That simple signal changes more than people expect. Your breathing stays steady. Your thoughts move more calmly. And when the first challenge of the day appears, as it always does, you meet it with a steadier mind. It's not that problems disappear. Life still brings its usual mix of small surprises and responsibilities, but the way you meet them changes. A calm morning doesn't solve the whole day, but it gives you a softer place to stand when the day begins to move. Think of it like setting the temperature of a room. If the morning begins with calm, that warmth stays with you for hours. You move through conversations with more patience. You handle small frustrations without carrying them all afternoon. Even ordinary moments, making breakfast, stepping outside, hearing a bird in the yard, feel easier to notice. The morning writes the emotional headline for the day. And when that headline begins with gentleness, the rest of the day often follows in the same direction. In the next part, we'll talk about something many people experience but rarely say out loud: the quiet loneliness that can sometimes visit in the morning, and how a small habit can turn that silence into something kinder. There's another side to mornings that many people understand, but not everyone talks about. Sometimes the morning feels lonely. Not dramatically, just quietly. You wake up and the house is still. The chair across the table is empty. The voices that once filled the kitchen are no longer part of the morning routine. Children grow up and build their own lives. Friends move away. Some people you loved are no longer here. And the morning is often when you feel that change most clearly. Because morning used to be shared. Someone making coffee, someone reading the newspaper, someone asking what the plan was for the day. When those small rituals disappear, the silence can feel heavier than expected. But this is where a gentle morning habit becomes something more than just a routine. It becomes a form of quiet companionship. The cup of coffee you make each morning, the chair by the window, the few minutes you spend watching the sky grow brighter. These small things begin to hold the day together. They become familiar, steady, comforting. And over time, that quiet moment begins to feel less like emptiness and more like presence. You begin to realize something important. Lonely mornings often just need a little kindness. Not noise, not distraction. Just a small moment where you treat the beginning of the day with patience. Instead of rushing away from the silence, you sit with it. And slowly, the silence changes. It becomes softer, less like an empty room, and more like a peaceful one. A small ritual can turn silence into company. In the next part, we'll talk about what begins to happen when you keep this habit for a while, and how those small, steady mornings can slowly make the entire day feel lighter. Something quiet begins to happen when you keep this small morning habit. Not in one dramatic moment, but gradually. At first, it's simply a few calm minutes before the day begins. You sit with your coffee. You look out the window. You let the morning arrive without rushing it. And that's all. But after a few days, something feels different. Your mind doesn't start the day already tense. The first thoughts that appear are softer. The day no longer feels like something you have to brace yourself for. Weeks pass, and you notice another small shift. Worries still show up, because that's part of being human. But they don't arrive with the same weight they used to. They appear more gently, and you find yourself handling them with a little more patience. It becomes easier to move through the day. Small frustrations don't stay with you as long. Unexpected moments feel easier to carry. Even ordinary parts of the day begin to feel lighter. Making breakfast, watering a plant, stepping outside for a short walk. The calm you gave yourself in the morning travels quietly with you. A steady morning can carry you through an unsteady day. And over time, that small habit becomes something reliable, a place you return to every morning. Not because you have to, because it feels good to begin the day that way. Lightness rarely arrives all at once. It often begins with a very small beginning. In the final part, we'll bring this all together with a simple reminder about mornings and how meeting the day gently can change far more than you expect. Morning doesn't ask much from us. It simply arrives. The light slowly moves across the room. The house begins to wake up, and another day quietly opens in front of you. You don't have to greet that moment with pressure. You don't have to start the day already solving everything. Later in life, mornings can become something gentler, a small pause before the world fully begins, a moment to sit with your coffee, to notice the light, to let your mind wake up at its own pace. These few minutes may seem small, but they carry more influence than most people realize, because the day often follows the tone of its first moments. When the morning begins with calm, the rest of the day tends to soften around it. You move a little slower. You respond with a little more patience. You carry the hours with less weight on your shoulders. Life after 60 doesn't need more pressure. It benefits from more kindness. And that kindness can begin in the quietest place of all, the first few minutes of the morning. So tomorrow, when the day begins and the house is still, try meeting it gently. Sit for a moment. Hold your cup of coffee or tea. Watch the light arrive. You don't need a complicated routine, just a small, steady habit. One quiet moment that belongs only to you. Because sometimes the lightest days begin with the gentlest mornings. If this letter met you at the right time, you're welcome here. And if you'd like, tell me in the comments, what is one small thing that helps your mornings feel peaceful? Take what helps. Leave the rest.